Hey guys, it's Mitch Stokes here with your Food for Thought Friday. Today we're going to talk about embracing the suck. Something that was taught to me real young. Short, sweet, simple version of being uncomfortable, being comfortable doing that. Just embracing being in pain and discomfort for an end goal. Because at the end of the day, in life is suffering. It's part of what makes us who we are. It gives us our strength. It gives us our weaknesses. And really makes up our human. What makes us human? Makes us unique. Makes us who we are. Oftentimes, especially in our Western modern culture, we take every opportunity to take the route of a shortcut. We like to shield ourselves, and especially like to shield our children away from being uncomfortable. Any small incident, whether Timmy is too cold, Sean is too hungry, too tired, Todd has a sore ankle, whatever it is, he has a tummy ache, we call our kids in sick to school, sick to work, we call in sick to practice. It's an epidemic. No one's actually ill. We're so used to giving people an option to quit on a regular basis. We give them an option to quit, and it becomes a habit. We habitually do it, and then it becomes a learned behavior in your child. They become an adolescent and it just gets worse. Where at an age where it becomes even more difficult to keep a kid focused and motivated because of what they're going through psychologically and hormonally, we give them more excuses. I have had kids call in, their parents call in, oh, well, Johnny was sick today. I'm like, well, he was at school. He's just not feeling like it. I don't think he's coming to practice. It's his birthday. It's his cousin's uncle's birthday. There's always some kind of excuse as to why the kid's not at practice, isn't where they're supposed to be, isn't being consistent in the things that they should be, the things that are important. Their priorities are skewed. I met young Petty Officer Pappas was his last name. He was in class 258. I actually got to return the favor to somebody and work their Hell Week. I actually worked 2 Hell Weeks as support as a brown shirt rollback because I was injured. And Petty Officer Pappas was one of the older gentlemen in the class. And when I say older, in the realm of special warfare training at BUD/S, you're talking maybe he was 30, maybe even younger. But it is a young man's game, so he was one of the older people there. He was having a hard time keeping up with the swims, keeping up on the runs. He was falling behind frequently. He ended up passing Hell Week. He went through 5 days, 5 nights, no sleep. He ran over 100 miles. He paddled around the island. Boat races, obstacle course races, log PT, boat drills. You name it, he did it. He finally got done. A 258 Hell Week secured, and they sent him to medical. Pappas had a partially collapsed lung. I believe it was his left lung. It was giving him major difficulty breathing. It's a wonder that he didn't pass out during some of the evolutions, and it's a miracle that he even made it as far as he did. Ultimately, they had to discharge him medically because once you have a collapsed lung, it is at risk for collapsing again, and you can't dive. And one of the primary jobs in the very next phase of training in BUD/S is dive phase. So it's a safety concern, and unfortunately he was not able to continue, even though he was a stellar person. But it didn't stop him. I can't imagine the discomfort, the pain that he was going through during this endeavor. I mean, you could tell the guy was really uncomfortable. But he stuck to our mantra, and he embraced the suck. He got through it evolution by evolution. He embraced the suck. He didn't quit. It's very easy to quit. turn around, stop training, refusal to train. Plenty of people do it. That's just an extreme example, but I wanted to use it because I wanted to frame kind of what goes on and where you can use that lesson, you can use that example in your daily life and how you raise your kids and how you coach your athletes. By not giving them a way out constantly all the time, there's always that option of quitting without judgment. Now, I'm not saying that we judge the gentlemen that do ring that bell, but there's a filter process. If you're going to quit in training just because you're a little wet and tired and hungry, maybe you have some bleeding calluses, whatever, you're more likely to quit during a firefight or after 6 days of no food, being out in the wilderness on your own with a small team of 8 men. You need to be able to depend on each other. So it's not so much judgment, but there are repercussions for quitting. And the repercussion is you do not get to do the job that you wanted to do, that you set out to do. And it's perfectly fair. The problem with creating the habits and then into behaviors of constantly quitting with a child, with a young athlete, is it carries over into the rest of their life, not just sports. It doesn't stop there. They learn that behavior and they continue it at their job. They continue it with the relationships that they're in. They continue in the team environment, whether that's at work in the office with their coworkers, or a supervisor, a boss, a manager, or even people underneath them. They struggle with their family, whether it's their immediate family, their husband, wife, their children. They struggle with their siblings. They're not able to deal with conflict very well. They lack the coping skills. They can't get along with others. They don't know how to approach the situation because they've never had to. They've never been forced to sit through an uncomfortable conflict, resolve it, talk it out, be done with it, and put it behind them. They've always been the kid that, well, I don't get along with the coach. I don't get along with this assistant coach, this head coach here. I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to play anymore. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell my kid. I'm going to say, too bad. That's where you go to school. That's the team, and that's the coach. And if you want to wrestle, if you want to be on the track and field team, then that's who your person is. Sorry to tell you, I don't care if you disagree with the person that's in charge. You're going to learn to work with them. Too many times we give the kid an option. Well, you just don't understand my kid. He has needs. He doesn't respond well to that. And granted, there are different coaching styles. But at the end of the day, if we're always catering to the individual, that individual never learns how to cater to the team. And one thing that's very important, if you're going to work in a team environment, which is almost anything you ever do, no one lives alone their entire life. You're going to either be a part of a family, you're going to be a part of some kind of organization. You need to have those skills to be able to deal with that. You need to be able to deal with other people. And they're not going to always like everybody. Not everyone's going to be your friend. Not everyone wants to be your friend, and that's okay. But it doesn't stop the fact that you're going to have to deal with it because it's for the common good, for a common goal. Otherwise, you're going to have a very hard time in life. And your kid's going to have a very hard time in life if that's how they learn to deal with things. By churning around, by quitting, by looking for shortcuts. You have to stop giving them the option to quit. You have to stop letting them take shortcuts. And you have to stop making excuses for them. As much as it is painful to watch your kid cry, whether they're 5 years old or a 15-year-old, it's painful to see your child in pain. That's a piece of your own flesh and blood. I understand it just as much as anybody else does. But you can't coddle them. You can't be a helicopter parent. Because at the end of the day, you're also not going to be there for them forever. What are you going to go to you're going to go to their work? You're going to go over to their school? Every time there's some kind of problem? And they've got to learn to put their big kid pants on eventually and deal with it. And it starts really young. You wait too long, like, well, they're an adult now they can handle it. Well, you never given them an opportunity. You never taught them how. And then they go off to college, they go off to the military, and they can't cope, they can't handle it. Next thing you know, they're back on your doorstep. That's not what you want. It's not what you want for them. It's not what's going to make them successful, and it's not what's going to make them happy. It's short-term happiness because you don't want them in pain, but in the long term, you're putting them in more pain. You're not doing them any favors. You need to teach them to embrace the suck. And it's subtle. It doesn't have to be all the time. There are times where it's appropriate to give the kid a break. Like, don't let them quit the team midway through the season. That just was never allowed in my house as a child. Maybe we didn't go out for the team the next year because we found it just wasn't our niche. But once you make a commitment, you stick with it. We never badmouth coaches. That's one thing I've seen that goes on quite frequently. Whether it's face-to-face or at home, parents more and more these days are comfortable talking poorly and negatively about a coach or a supervisor in front of their children. You're doing a lot of damage there. You're displacing the trust. You're breaking the coach and athlete bond. And it makes the job of a coach that much more difficult to get those kids to listen to them, to get them to buy into the program, to listen. And you're setting that pattern up for repeat offense later on in life because they don't get along with their boss. They don't like the way they talk. They don't like the way they tell them to do things. That's too bad. Everybody's got a boss. Even if you're a business owner, you have a boss. It's called paying your taxes. It's called having a husband or a wife or kids to hold you accountable. There's always someone above you, someone that takes priority over you, and you got to learn to deal with that. And so do your kids. That's all I have time for today. Hope you enjoyed listening. Go out there, embrace the suck. Make your kids strong. If they're stronger, they'll be happier. I'll see you next week.